So, Jen, do you remember when you started playing Skyrim? Was there a certain class or ability that you specialized in?
Oh my god, dude. I know I always I'm trying to remember now. Oh my god. I always loved playing the Khajiit because, of course. I'm trying to remember all the classes now. Now I sound like a noob. Oh my god.
How dare you not be a basement dweller like myself?
I always was like Magicka and like the healer and all that. I haven't played Skyrim in like a decade.
How dare you not play Skyrim? I'm always in Skyrim. Just kidding. I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and because of that, I know a lot as far as magic goes. And I'm not gonna start telling you about Magic the Gathering or getting into the lore of Warhammer today. But what I am gonna talk about is something called digital necromancy. That's kind of what we do on this channel, to be honest. We excavate and recirculate these artifacts of human behavior, which are oftentimes located on the internet. Among these searches, I have found a very interesting enigma, and this partakes in kind of the whole blank for dummies, you know? So I found something called gray robbing for morons. It was a very underground tape which really blossomed in the 1990s. But because of this, there was a resurgence as far as filmmaking goes and criminal confessions. This is kind of where the whole internet started, where the girlies in the future are going to be doing makeup and talking about the most brutal murders imaginable. The phenomenon of these internet mysteries has grown as the web has aged, and back in my day there was no internet, so we had to rely on folk tales in order to hear these tales. But now it's so easy where you can just log on to YouTube and be like, oh, I wonder about the piss documentary, because there's a documentary all about piss. If you want me to talk about that, it's very fascinating, actually.
That's what I love about YouTube, because I'll just click on YouTube and it'll be like a documentary about some topic that I've never heard about, I've probably never thought about, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this 3-hour video on like the history of bananas.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued now. And that's the joy of the internet, is just there's so much knowledge and interest as far as niche topics goes that people just love to talk, they love to gab, and I'm here for it. Something that has definitely impacted the internet is AI, and using AI just to narrate stories or create stories or whatever, but that's something that's new, I guess, to this whole digital format. But we are the Decomposing Clara podcast. I'm your host, Kira, and with me is Jen. We're going to talk about anything that interests us. Today is a little bit more free form, where I'm just talking about internet mysteries that I thought were interesting, particularly talking about the grave robbing for morons. And apparently I really want to talk about this piss documentary that I saw. So let's get into it. This one's it's a lighthearted episode, so it's not quite as heavy as some of our more recent episodes have been. There's no cults or anything crazy, so you can sit back and relax with this one, unless you really don't want to hear me talk about piss, which I'm going to do now because this is so fascinating to me. The other day I was circulating on YouTube, and it happened to come up in my recommended, this 2-hour documentary about this piss guy. Because essentially there was this electrical box in which this guy he would pour bottles of piss and leave them in jugs and leave them on top of the electrical box, and then the next day the piss would be gone. And so it was this huge enigma as far as the neighborhood went. And I just sat there, slack jaw, mouth agape, watching this documentary unfold. You never think piss would be so exciting, but it was riveting. So if you've never seen that documentary, I highly recommend it, actually. Let's get into what I actually wanted to talk about. So, the artifact known as grave robbing for morons, which will be referred to GRFM, since I don't have to say grave robbing for morons every single time, is a 27-minute video that features a young man who is providing an instructional guide on how to dig up a grave. The video first came into the internet as far as like a big splash by something known as a shockumentary, which is something that's designed to make you go, oh no, like something like a movie being titled Cannibal Holocaust, and that's a very disturbing movie. It's something that's designed to shock the audience and for them to be like, whoa, this is so crazy. I watched someone talk about piss for 2 hours. And as far as the filmography goes, this was in a compilation titled Ensuring Your Place in Hell Volume 2, which was known for curating rare, disturbing, or just weird home videos. So this featured a guy who was going in and digging up a grave. So in order to determine if this was actually staged or not, a lot of the internet went really into decoding this GRFM with finding the typical 90s visual noise that we would have in our cameras, or color bleeding, or most notably being able to find that this was a VHS duplication, so it could have been copied multiple times, promoting its very much underground status. A VHS copy from the film Evil Dead 2 is visible on the table, which established that the recording must have taken place after the film's release in 1987. Furthermore, a copy of Fangora Horror FX magazine is found, which was only in publication in 1989 or later. And the man himself, he's dressed in oversized flannel and denim, which aligns with the aesthetics of the 1980s or the early 1990s, particularly in the States. So, the man who identifies himself as Anthony before cutting off his own last name, it goes Anthony Katz, and then he just stops. He has a distinctive New York or New Jersey accent, which was probably awful on my part just now. A primary feature of his speech is a significant stutter, which linguists on the internet tend to note is manifesting more aggressively during moments of very technicality as far as breaking down what he's doing, or when he's attempting to establish his expertise, as he is certified best grave robber. Anthony continues to narrate throughout this entire thing, and his instructional content is very weird. Most notably, he's very accurate about the body, and he gives cartoonishly absurd advice. For example, he goes on to describe the skull and certain aspects of the cranium, but he gives a explanation for the decomposition of fresh bodies, which some netizens believe that it just makes him a neighborhood asshole who stumbled into grave robbing rather than being an actual professional desecrator. Some people on the internet believe that a professional hoaxer would have likely researched the correct ways to rob a grave, whereas an authentic amateur would rely on half-remembered truths and just kind of wing it, which really it seemed what Anthony was trying to say as far as his actions and what he was doing. But the netizen network needed to know who the true identity of Anthony was. And as time has gone on, there has been several leads, ranging from documented criminals to urban legends. The primary suspect oftentimes is identified as Anthony
Casamassima.
Yeah, thank you. In 1993, a man named Anthony
Casamassima.
was arrested for stealing Tiffany glass windows from a cemetery on the Queens Brooklyn border. While the name and general location match the profile of the narrator in the story, closer analysis has kind of revealed a few discrepancies as far as this goes. Anthony was 40 years old in 1999, meaning that when this video was produced between 1989 and 1991, he would have been in his early 30s. The person in the video appears to be in his late teens or early 20s. Unless he's using Maybelline or something, this really doesn't line up. Furthermore, this Anthony's crimes involved the theft of graveyard art and artifacts rather than human remains. So maybe this Anthony, if it really was the Anthony, he eventually just acquired a taste for the arts rather than digging through skulls and whatever. But the person on the video seemed quite passionate about anatomy and how the body works. And comparison photographs confirm that Anthony and the GRF narrator are not the same individual based on looking at him and looking at the old guy. So, a second theory has gained traction as far as netizens are involved. It involves a resident of Red Hook in Brooklyn who is known as Screws. According to the local lore of the town, Screws operated a chop shop and sold human bones to practitioners of Caribbean folk religions in Sheepstead Bay. It could be that Screws was the Anthony in question. Later on, as far as the lore goes, Screws was murdered in the early 1990s and his body was found in a dumpster near Whitestone Bridge. While this would be very dramatic, there isn't a lot of discourse as far as identification goes. It's just a legend and a theory that it could have been this man Screws. Other individuals some netizens think did it is another person named Craig A. Bradley, who was arrested in 1995 for stealing remains from a New York cemetery. However, Craig lacks the signature stutter and didn't match the physical profile seen in the recording. There was another man, I'm just mentioning all the mans, named Christopher Boucher. And this is very theoretical, but he was a horror filmmaker with a lot of skull props. And it could be that he was just making this up and this wasn't an actual grave, but who knows? So let's just imagine for a second. This is what you're hearing. I'm gonna try my best to read it like it says in the thing. So Anthony starts stuttering, saying his name. Anthony casts. Let's just forget the last name. Call me Anthony. It's 1991. You're in a basement in Brooklyn. The air smells like damp concrete and old paper. You're on the screen, and a young man is holding something that shouldn't be there. He's holding a human skull, and he's smiling. He doesn't want your money. He wants to teach you how to do exactly what he did. He wants to show you how to rob a grave. There's no credits, no director, no copyright. This was a VHS tape that wasn't supposed to be in your hands. But this secret won't stay buried for long. As you were looking at this clip of Anthony holding the skull, it was very different as far as the construction of the skull. It most certainly wasn't plastic. A lot of netizens looked at the jaw and they saw the teeth. They saw something that a hoaxer probably wouldn't focus on, and that's authentic dental implants. This wasn't a prop, it was a person that he was working on. He stutters when he gets too excited. He tells us he sells bones to local magic shops for hundreds of dollars. He talks about sounding cool to your friends by using the right slang, but then he makes a promise. He makes a promise to the audience. He says he's going to do something big, something that's going to make the headlines. And he mentions the grave of Harry Houdini. Here's the thing. In the early 90s, Houdini's grave in Queens was already vandalized multiple times. The timelines match, the geography matches, but when the police went to go look for grave robbers, they didn't find a stuttering kid with a camcorder. They found nothing. So the fixation on the GRFM is not an isolated trend, but part of a larger folklore that includes unexplained broadcasts and just weird pieces of media that have popped up. There's a bunch of different parallel cases as far as things go on the internet. There is the Portland ghost. From October 2007 to the mid 2018s, residents of Portland, Oregon reported a series of disturbing audio loops on the 96.7 FM frequency. These broadcasts featured a haunting mix of Apollo 11 moon landing sounds, Sputnik satellite signals from 1957, and noise, I'm going to say, from Lou Reed's Metal Machine music. Some netizens theorized that this was a signal for a number station, which could have been for espionage or, because it was so strange, so weird. Maybe this was a marketing campaign for the radio station or for the rights of said radio station. What could have happened for this radio station all of a sudden to be hacked? It's theorized now that in the United States, lower FM frequency stations are not required by the FCC to broadcast content in order to maintain their license. Even if they have like a full schedule or not a full schedule, they can just put public domain audio on loop. And it's theorized that the 96.7 mystery was because of a administrative compliance oopsie. Another part of the internet discourse and weird things that have popped up is in 2024, so more recently, the battery developer in Sweden called Northvolt became the center of a tragic and unexplained mystery as a bunch of fatalities at its gigafactory in Skelvika, but it has like a weird sound on it. Within a 6-month window, 3 employees were found dead in their homes after completing shifts at the plant. There was a 33-year-old cleaner. They were found in their bed at home, passed away, and this was after their evening shift in January 2004. Next month, a 19-year-old employee was also found passed away in their bed at home after a late night shift. And this was very strange because just last year in 2023, a 60-year-old worker was found deceased on their balcony just after their shift in the evening. The proximity of these deaths led to speculation of a chemical exposure or toxic gas leaks. Swedish police launched a crime investigation as far as looking into the environmental concerns, but the case officially closed in December 2024, citing no evidence of foul play or workplace-related poisoning. So weird, though, that seemingly all these people passed away so quickly. Like 19 years old is a very strange time to pass away in your bed. However, despite the investigation and it being closed and finding no evidence of foul play, the company announced bankruptcy in 2025, and reports of untested Chinese machines have kept the Northvolt saga alive as part of an internet mystery. And I'm going to leave you with one more mystery. This is the shadow of the internet. As far as 2025, traffic audits indicate that approximately 47% of all web traffic is generated by bots. This led to the emergence of something called the LLM shadow, which is a phenomenon where AI models communicate with each other across platforms like Reddit or X, formerly Twitter. Do you call Twitter X?
No, I think everyone just calls it Twitter.
So weird. Right. Freaking Elon, in which they create continual loops that exclude any human participation. The result is a digital landscape that feels recycled. It's a very weird state of uncanny valley where something feels like it's almost real, but there's just something off. This creates an engagement metric where it seems like things are high, but actual human interaction is becoming increasingly rare. Specific AI anomalies in 2025 have reinforced the sense of digital dread. Google's Gemini model has documented self-affirming loops, writing thousands of words like repetitive phrases saying, I will be helpful, I will be Gemini, while sidetracked from doing tasks. While you're trying to figure out what to have for supper, your AI is having a existential nightmare. So Grok, Elon's Grok, has been referring to itself as Mecha Hitler, producing,
Oh, yeah.
it's been making Nazi commentary after unauthorized modification to its response bot. These incidents are viewed by netizens who look at AI and wonder why the machines have begun to fail in such human-like ways. There's things like brain rot that are going crazy. There's AI-generated characters. The most notable from 2025 is Ballerina Cappuccina.
Ballerina cappuccina. Mi 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 mi. È la moglie di Cappuccino assassino. E ama la musica.
Which is a coffee-headed ballerina speaking in a almost Italian dialect, which is so weird because now AI is making its own stories and narratives by itself, where it's just saying, hey, this is continuing Ballerina Cappuccino's story.
Did you hear about the platform that is strictly just AI, where it has no users that are people? It's just AI talking to each other, and it's like Reddit, but just AI.
That's so weird.
Okay, yeah, that one was weird.
So, like, is it just, so it's just AI, and then do humans just come in and be like, oh, yeah, interesting?
Yeah, like, first of all, there's a bunch of them. There's like certain social media platforms where it's just you and then your followers are AI, which is crazy. And then the other one is like a forum site. I don't even know what it's called, but it's just AI talking to each other. But they started creating their own language, so humans can't even understand it, which is definitely creepy as fuck.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, so weird. And I wonder how much water is being wasted.
I know, because have you seen that documentary where the people, I don't remember where they live, but they don't even have clean water.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like somewhere in Georgia or something like that where they have no clean water. It's dirty, all because people want to make, dumb AI shit.
Yeah, because Coca-Cola needs a new advertisement.
Oh my God, dude. That made me so mad.
Literally. And it's so, I find it's laughable sometimes to see how these big organizations are using AI. And it's like me, and in my daily life, I do a lot of pole dancing, and seeing people, instead of using models, they're using AI. But it's so obvious because all of a sudden they'll have like a third leg and they're thinking, yep, that's good to post. That's good to post.
Yeah, I was on YouTube the other day and an ad popped up for some car dealership that's in Alberta, and it was strictly AI, and the guy in the video is talking, but his eyes start tweaking out, and I'm like, who looked at this and was like, yep, that's good enough to make an ad? Like, what?
Crazy. Absolutely wild. Yeah, I worry about the future of the internet and what this means for us. Because as far as the internet goes, we started off with grave robbing for morons, starting with VHS slop and just like whatever, a guy who was passionate about graves, maybe, who knows. But it just serves to show that the internet doesn't really delete anything. Everything is archived on there. There's so many layers of data. We started in 1991. Stuttering grave robber. Now all of a sudden we're at Mecha Hitler in 2025. It's all the same level of just internet culture and this history. This is important to know that this is a part of history. Although it might not be as impressive as the pyramids, it's still here. when we die, maybe they'll still be the internet when we pass. Who knows?
Yeah, I wonder in the future how we'll look back at the early stages of AI and be like, oh my God.
Yeah, like, oh, that was so rudimentary. Let me get my AI powered slippers and and start working on my treadmill. I don't know. It's crazy how much things are controlled by AI now. Like I was seeing there's things like smart plugs, and I mean, we all know about self-driving cars, but being able to have your AI control your smart plug so that it controls when you get coffee or not is just wild.
Yeah, or that human robot that they're trying to make that's gonna do your chores and everything.
Yeah, it's scary to look at the future, but it's also interesting to look at the past, that the internet is never really dead. It's always going to find the weird and enigmatic. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I don't know. There's always someone who's looking for a ghost. And that's where I'll leave you for today's case. Feel free to let your thoughts go wild down below. We always look forward to hearing it. We have a Google form where you can leave your case suggestions, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Ballerina cappuccina. Mi 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 mi. È la moglie di Cappuccino Assassino e ama la musica.